Brother.
Yes. Oh, right.
Thank you for inviting me back after the last little soiree. That was a very pleasant evening.
I said I never would, but there you go.
Well, I enjoyed his cooking, I can tell you, but
so much so that you've decided to bring the food this time.
This time I brought the food, but there's a particular reason for that, and that is, and I'm going to raise my glass to you here, Brian, to wish you a happy birthday.
Oh, thank you very much. And 27.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah, all right.
Well,
127.
For those of you who don't know what sort of age Brian is, I mean, he's not a youngster, but it's either a very good birthday today or it's a very good score on the golf course, one or the other.
I think it's a great score on the golf course. And I think it's a great, when you've been through what I've been through in life, every birthday is a reason to celebrate. Because I could have been long gone 40 years ago, so bring it on.
Absolutely. I think it's a great attitude, and it's a good attitude for all of us to realise that let's appreciate life while we're here and while we've got it.
Absolutely. So, did you have an idea? Because I've been thinking a little bit about what we did last time, and we covered a period up to when we both got involved with somebody to help us with the way our mind worked on the golf course.
Yeah, absolutely.
Which is called psychology, but I think that's sometimes a term that frightens people. And it's very simple. It's how your mind functions.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
So, and we were talking about the early 1990s.
Yeah, right the way through. I think through the 90s was the time when I was working on that. You were doing the same thing and playing, trying to play the French circuit and so on. So and enjoying some good golf at times there. So
my mind was unbelievable. Because I played golf. I didn't. I was by then. I was living with Fabienne before we got married. Her son, who was about 7 or 8 by that time, and all my students and my job. And I'd go away from the tournament. Took about a day, 24 hours to get rid of my coaching hat and put on player's hat. And by the time I got down to the golf course for the tournament, nothing else existed about me, my clubs, that ball, that golf course. Nothing else. I was so focused. I didn't look at other golfers. I've been very put off as a young kid on the circuit by all these big name people around me. It just it was too tough for me to cope with at that time. But the second time it was just wonderful. I expressed myself in ways I didn't believe I was capable of.
That's nice.
So it worked for me brilliantly, and taught me a lot about coaching and how to help people as well.
And then, if I remember, so during that period, I moved clubs and ended up working at what was originally just a driving range in the mid-90s.
Yeah.
But fortunately, had the freedom to kind of build it and design it however I wanted, which allowed me to sort of work on the coaching process and making sure the facilities were right for coaches, etc.
Yeah. And if I may say so, a brilliant job for me to come back to coaching, which we'll come on to, in 2006, at a place that was designed for people to learn and for people like me to work with fantastic facilities. You did a brilliant job, so well done to you.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Oh, another reason.
Not very often I say that.
Finally, he's given me a compliment. It's only taken 69 years.
Yeah.
Oh, I've let that slip.
27.
But during that time, that same sort of period, you started going away from coaching into golf club management, didn't you?
Well, I think the first thing that I ought to say is that in '87, I got away from being a club pro, and a club pro is a jack of all trades. There's so many different things you're doing. You're doing club repairs, you're doing retail, you're doing coaching, you're playing with the captain, you're looking. It was so difficult.
Pulls you in a lot of directions.
And I got out to France, and all I had was coaching. So I could immerse myself in it. I started reading more. It just freed me to get involved.
I remember you talking about the fact that you felt like working under the sort of existing PGA system in this country at that time, that when you got out to France, it was an opportunity to just take the shackles off and try some new and different things that just wouldn't have worked here.
Well, France was liberating because their attitude towards the golf pro is totally different. You're a professeur. Everybody looks up to a teacher in France. In the UK, in England, we've still come from the caddy ranks, and we're still a servant of the club. And so it was a release. It was fantastic, and I did that for 9 years. And those 9 years of being totally dedicated to coaching were wonderful. But then I got into management. But I think that there's one particular thing that happened to me which was so pivotal, and I did write about this in my book. And it was a guy called Raymond and his partner Christiane, who came to Les Bordes once a year. She was a nice golfer. She was a regular golfer. He played probably 2 rounds of golf a year, or twice a year, once at Les Bordes, and one other one-day thing during the year, and he was hopeless. And Les Bordes, for those of you who don't know, it's a standard scratch 76. It's one of the top courses in Europe, if not the world, and it is tough as hell. And this poor man, so I gave him a lesson one day, and he was awful, and I helped him very quickly by asking some questions, establishing the misconceptions he had, and then finding ways for him to do something that disproved the belief. And it was unbelievable. I was shocked as to how well he hit the ball and how well he swung the club from something that was dreadful. And that evening we had dinner in the clubhouse, because they were staying there because there was accommodation, and I was the general manager, so we got chatting and had dinner together. And he said, "You're a fast therapist."
Oh, I remember you. And that's where that term came from. Yes.
Whatever's that? He made it sound like it was an official title. So then he started to explain, and he explained that he was a business coach, top-level business coach, helping France Telecom top management to come to terms with privatisation. Totally different mindset. And he said, "That's what I do in my business. I ask people questions, I present that to them in a way that then it gives them some awareness." And he said, "People react and change very quickly." He said, "This is what you did to me today." And I asked him to come and do a 3-day course for the 3 golf courses, 40-bedroom hotel. It's one of the top places, I think, in the world, Les Bordes in France. Absolutely fantastic. And I had a problem because we had 7 departments, 7 managers, 7 assistant managers, 7 departments, 70 employees. And they were so separated. There was no communication when I got there, and it's a hard job to get them to communicate. And so I engaged him to come with Christiane for 3 days, and what I learned in those 3 days was, and I was the big winner of the whole thing. I mean, it obviously helped tremendously in terms of team building and getting people to communicate correctly. And the business ran far smoother after that. But it was what I learned, the processes of coaching, the power of the belief system, the power of asking the right question, challenging people's beliefs, but not by telling them they're wrong, but just
letting them find out.
Well, provoking them with simple tools.
Yeah.
So that was a very important time for me. And I got into that, that was 98, 99. And then life was fantastic, but there was nothing happening. I was stuck out in the middle of nowhere. I was single again, and I started pining for home. Came back in 2001.
Wanted to come back to your old brother?
All right, I'll give you that one.
Maybe.
Yeah, nod, wink, wink. Came back to England in 2001, another 5 years golf club management, fraught with difficulties, but during that time I had an opportunity to do a correspondence course on a thing called performance coaching in the workplace. Nothing to do with sport or golf. And again, I learned so much along the same theme, the belief system, power of questions, challenging. And that's of course what you do to staff. To help staff grow, you can't just tell them what to do. You have to involve them in the learning process. And there's a modern word which is empowerment, And I think there's a lot of lip service paid to that. But I learnt how to really empower them to do the job and carry it on. It was just me there to guide them. So that was very, very instrumental.
And so that was 2001 through to 2006.
Yeah.
And by the end of that period, so you'd been in management for what, nearly a decade at that point? At the end of that?
98. Well, no, a decade. 96 I started. I went from 87 to 96 coaching, 96 to 98 as a golf director managing a golf club, and then general manager with hotel and the whole thing for 3 years before coming back to England. Yeah. So it's 10 years.
10 years, yeah.
Wow.
By which time you decided that actually the coaching element, this idea of the performance coaching and using that with golf, really appealed to you more than staying in the management side.
Golf club management was a tough call, and it wasn't what I was made for. No. I was made as a coach, and it helped me to realise that, even if it took me 10 years to work that one out. So yes, I had an opportunity. I think I actually said to you, look, I want to get out of this, and I want to go back to coaching. And you said, well,
I remember it very well, because at the same time I had a golf centre. We'd gone from just being a driving range. I'd built a 9-hole golf course there. I was quite into kind of golf course design, and I think that was about the 4th course I'd designed, and it was a really nice little 9-hole golf course, kind of based for beginners, but any golfer could play it and enjoy it. But it was kind of designed with beginners in mind, with this great coaching facility there. And the thing was expanding so much, and I had a team of about 17 people working there, and I found I just didn't have the time to coach anymore. I was, again, like Brian, general manager, but the owner of the business as well. You kind of pulled in so many different directions. I just didn't have time to coach. I used to end up coaching, and I'd be watching my watch all the time, thinking, when's this going to finish? Because I need to get back and do this, that, and the other, and somebody's doing that over there. I'd be distracted. So I needed to get away from the coaching, and I thought I need to take on a coach to actually manage all the coaches. We had 6 coaches there at the time, and there was nobody better in my mind than Brian to be able to do it. So I kind of plucked up the courage one day to sort of suggest the idea to him about coming and working together. And crikey, that was an interesting conversation, because I was worried it wouldn't go the way I thought it would, but actually you were championing it a bit.
It was timing is everything, isn't it? And you needed somebody. I wanted to do exactly the job that you were looking for somebody to do, and it was a sort of marriage made in heaven. Yeah, absolutely. If you can ever marry your brother.
Let's not go there.
No.
But yeah, so then when we got back together again, and it was a great opportunity to sort of review everything we'd learnt over those years, to look at the psychology, to look at what we'd learnt about the swing technique, and moving on from those early technical days to a much easier kind of system. And you were keen to write a book.
Well, before the book, the first thing we had to decide is, what do we call it?
Yes.
Because I can remember one of the first things is, it's the Brian Sparks Golf Academy. I said no, because the Brian Sparks Golf Academy doesn't exist after Brian Sparks. So I want this to last much longer. So, and the performance coaching diploma I did was actually under the title of Positive Impact Coaching. And I thought, well, what's better than Positive Impact Golf?
Yeah.
I want my coaches to have a positive impact on the people they coach, and I wanted the golfers, the students, to have a positive impact on the ball and strike the ball
and a
better.
Positive impact on their game.
Yes, yeah. So we went with that, and then it was in 2007 that I, after 40 years of being a golf pro, decided that I think I've got enough credibility now to write a book, which came out in 2010, and then crucially put a silent video on YouTube called Easiest Swinging Golf.
And I have to tell you, Brian showed it to me and said, "What do you think of this?" And I said, "It's rubbish. You've got to change it."
Well,
no, seriously, I'm joking there. I didn't believe that a video that was that long, that didn't say anything, would be successful.
It spoke to people, though.
And that was the shocking thing, was that in this day of the kind of instant quick fix, I didn't believe that enough people would have the attention to watch this thing and see it through, and without there being loads of sort of, you've seen loads of these clips on YouTube from pros who make it all sound very zany and fast and everything else, but actually it just really interferes with the key message, which is this is how simple it can be. And so yes, I mean, I was shocked that it actually went as well as it did, but I'm delighted. I think it has kind of opened up your whole world, hasn't it?
I think if there's ever one thing I did that was a little bit extraordinary and unusual that worked, it was deciding not to say a word. So there, and then the YouTube. Sometimes you have to. The video took a couple of years, 2 to 3 years before it started getting hits. But then, of course, it introduced people to the book, and then the book started selling.
Yeah.
And then, as I said in the first part of this video, that first half of the book was about la danse de golf, and this is actually a golf swing is quite a simple thing. The second part was all about the mind and getting your mindset and internal conversations and all those sort of things. So then let's pick up again now, because you've been a silent partner in this whole thing. You were never a positive impact golf coach at Manston because you were too busy running the business. When that all eventually became Easy Swing, and I now have 9 coaches around the world, and you're not one of them. And then, but you've always been involved, and we've always talked things through. Even the rebranding. At every step, we've talked things through. So you've been very, very involved. And so a lot of people might be a bit surprised that you're now
suddenly come in and appear on the scene.
But this is not a sudden process. It started.
No.
Did you say 100 years ago?
Yes, indeed. Well,
combined 100 years ago.
It's like a lot of things in life. People burst onto the scene. But if you've ever read Matthew Syed's book about bounce, it's called Bounce, and he talks about 10,000 productive hours of practice.
Yeah.
And fundamentally, that's, in most people, that's 10 years. And I've seen it time and time again that people burst onto the scene. Karen Stupples was one of my juniors at Princess when I was the pro there, who I helped in the early days, coached her from an 11-year-old to when she was 16, who went on to win the British Open. And she did that at age 30, and I remember the press talking about this girl that had burst onto the scene and won the British Open. And she'd been playing full-time tour golf from when she was 18, so it had taken her 12 years. Ian Woosnam, who we knew when we were in the Midlands, and was playing up there, failed to get his card 10 times. So it took him 11 years to get a tour card.
And then the rest is history.
Yeah,
so we're overnight successes.
Yeah, we're overnight successes. It's only taken us 100 years.
Oh, well, the next 100 are going to be interesting anyway.
But so getting back to your key point about the silent partner effectively in all of this, yes, I have been very involved in it with you all the way along, and we have worked together on both sides of it, both the aspect of how to swing the golf club, and I know I've been your guinea pig a lot of the time as well. You've tried things on me because I needed the help.
Unfortunately, and I do apologise publicly here, because I took him on all sorts of weird and wonderful paths.
Some of the early
journeys.
days were not clever, but in latter years, some of the coaching he's given me has been extraordinary. I remember two lessons in particular I can tell you about. One was probably the best lesson he ever gave me, when he stood and watched me for about 5 minutes hitting shots. So maybe I'd hit sort of 10, 15 shots, something like this. And he hadn't said a single word. And so I turned to him in the end and I said, "What do you think then?" And he said, "Well, what do you think I'm going to say?" And of course, I had to answer the question. And actually, in answering the question, I told him exactly what he knew I needed to do. And so, without him ever actually saying or telling me to do anything, I'd solved the problem myself, which is very much a key of easiest swing.
Because what you don't know is that there's some method in my madness, because now when Philip's not playing so well and he sits down in the evening and has a glass of wine and thinks, I better go and see Brian. Oh, okay, so if I go and see Brian, he's going to say, what do I think? And so what do I, so now he doesn't have to, I don't even have to go. I don't have to see him anymore.
That's the method in his madness. Yeah.
Sorry.
And the other lesson, which was a really curious lesson, was I was hitting the ball and hitting a nice draw with the driver, or so I thought, and he asked me if I could actually hit a fade, and yeah, of course I can hit a fade, so I made a few adjustments and hit a fade for him, to which he then asked me, could I hit a fade but hit it from the inside instead of hitting from out to in. So I had to think about that a little harder.
I actually said, could you hit it from in?
No. First of all, you asked me if I could hit it from the inside.
Yeah.
So I then made some adjustments, and sure enough, after a few practice swings, I could actually hit a fade and hit it from the inside. To which he then said, so if you can hit it from the inside and hit a fade, can you hit it from the inside and then go inside on the follow through and still hit a fade? Well, that's starting to really challenge me. So a little bit of practice, a little bit of adjustment. Yeah, eventually I managed an in-to-in swing that I can actually fade the ball with, and it's working, it's going pretty well. To which he then says, right, okay, that's all working. Could you now hit a fade, hit it from the inside, going inside on the follow through, and hit it low? Well, I mean, my mind almost exploded, because
he's always hit the ball very high.
I always hit the ball very high, and that, if you're a better player, is quite a challenge. An in-to-in swing that hits the ball with a fade and low is pretty difficult shot to hit. But eventually, with some practice, I was able to do it. At which point he said, now you're swinging the golf club well.
I think you've also forgotten the most important from my point of view.
Go on.
Lunchtime at Manston. Oh, Brian, you got a few minutes? Mm-hmm. Can watch you hit a few balls. Watch you hit a few balls.
I know where we're going here.
Go on then.
So he watches me hit a few balls, and I've always been a player who, I work hard at it. I really put a lot of effort into making sure I do it well, and I put a lot of hours and a lot of practice into it. But that expresses itself in my face, because I tend to purse up like this and so on. So Brian asked me, could I hit some shots with my mouth open?
From start to finish?
From start to finish. Well...
He looked at me. I can't, without swearing, I can't describe the look that came from his eyes.
No, and I can't tell you what I was thinking without swearing either.
Yes, all right.
So, the thought of actually taking a swing, having spent 40 years with this determined, pursed lip look of just being and hitting a ball, well, I can tell you, it just unlocked a key in me that I've always been a player who's tended to hit the ball too hard, a bit too tense. And I remember playing a game with Brian at Walton Heath where I'd sliced the ball over the trees a long way off target, and he just said to me, I would love to get to the stage where I could just get you to just relax and hit the ball a lot softer and just hit it straight time and time again. And I remember looking at him thinking, yeah, I'd love to do that too, but I can't do it. Well, when he got me to hit the ball without pursing my lips and tightening my face, all of a sudden I could actually do that. And that was a key moment for me, wasn't it?
Yeah, and since then you've hit the ball so much straighter, so much more. You don't have to practice so much.
Do you know the big thing? He saved me a fortune in golf balls.
True. The golf ball manufacturers have all been struggling ever since.
I used to regularly lose. I would lose a couple of balls in a good game of golf. In a bad game, I could lose 4 or 5. Nowadays, I rarely lose a golf ball. So that has been a transformation, and I appreciate that. Thank you. That was
my pleasure. It was a big moment, and I also learnt the importance of how can you be relaxed if this thing? How can your brain be relaxed if can't?
And funny enough, last time I was round at Brian's apartment here, we were doing some putting, and we were talking about putting in exactly the same way, and I realised that despite the fact he's taught me to do, or I've learnt He didn't teach me. He helped me to find out how to swing and hit the ball without tensing my face. When I'm putting, and I'm quite a good putter, I'm still tensing my face. And we were experimenting with that, and I watched Brian putting with just a very relaxed face and a lovely relaxed stroke. And I said to him, it reminds me of somebody I watched when we were kids putting, because I used to caddy for him. And he said, go on, who's that? And I said, Bobby Locke.
Just the world's best putter ever.
The world's best putter ever. And that's exactly how he looked. He had this very relaxed face, almost, because he was quite jowly as well, wasn't he?
Yeah.
Just totally relaxed, and he stood there and had most beautiful, relaxed putting action. And so, if any of you has any problems with your putting, try that as an example of just what the power of relaxing your face can be on what you can do with your hands and arms.
Brilliant. I think that we need to take the break, because you brought dinner and it's cooking, and
yes.
I think we just need to make a little break and just check the food.
Oh really?
Yeah, so we'll come back in a minute if that's okay with you.
Okay.
Okay.
We'll see you in a minute.